Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Great GM. This is part 2 of our interview with Alex from battlebards.com. Hello Alex, thank you for joining us.
Hey!
So in the first part we were looking at...
My pleasure.
Perfect. In the first part we were looking at various ways in which we can understand music culturally and racially for elves and dwarves and that kind of stuff. Now we're moving on to the second half where we look at how it's going to make your game just that much better and different applications that perhaps we haven't considered before. And of course one of the major components of BattleBards is the sound effects side of it, which I haven't even touched on in any of these videos, but which certainly we can do in future episodes. Leave your comments below. So let's plow forward. So on that point, Alex, what else does BattleBards offer apart from these really cool soundtracks?
Oh boy. So it's not just the music, sound effects, soundscapes, and voiceovers that we offer. And what we do, it's curated. It's of the highest quality. We work with some industry professionals. It's the tools. I've been using audio in my games for 20 years, and I got to tell you, nothing is more frustrating than setting up this amazing climatic moment with your PCs where they're about to fight the BBG, and then it's, wait guys, hold on, the track is buffering, or I need to find the track. The energy just falls off the table. So one of the focuses with BattleBards is to bring that audio to the game master as close as possible. No buffering, no waiting for one track to finish, no complicated controls, and that's where the soundboard comes in. You can queue up all the audio you need, the sound effects that you need, right there off the cuff, and you can move between playlists really seamlessly, and you can get just the audio you need at the right time when you need it without having to wait for anything. You can play tracks on top of each other, so if you have, back in my day, I had Winamp, Windows Media Player, iTunes, all open at once because I had to use different pieces of audio on top of each other, and that was too much of a headache. So the soundboard lets you orchestrate your audio in a way that you couldn't do before. Then there's the mixer, which we can get into, which just explodes the range of audio that you could do. You could narrate scenes with sound effects. You could make new soundscapes by layering them, but we could get into the mixer helps you customize the audio that you're going to use in your session. It helps you expand your audio assets to just make your own in a very easy click and drag kind of way that we can get into it.
Oh, absolutely. So in terms of the sort of the sound effects and the things that you're mixing together, would this or does this replace the need for you to be a narrative GM or DM?
It doesn't. I mean, I remember I was approached when this idea first came about. Some influencers in the space, some major GMs said, "Well, audio is going to be too distracting. We need to get our narratives out. We need to get our narrations. Audio is a complement. It's an emotional backdrop to whether it's going to be a narrative or it's going to be an action scene going by. And there's so many different ways that audio can be used to complement that, and you hit a couple of those ways in your video, which is fantastic. What you covered is the contextualized narrative approach, which is wonderful. So you're giving this great speech, and you have that emotional contact. And what you actually did, you went a step further, and you synced it, and that makes things very profound. When you hit a certain point, you've got clamps in the audio that drives that home, or you've got when you say, and you hear some dark chanting, and you hear some of that chanting in the background, that adds an immersive nature to the game that is very hard to get anywhere else in any other hobby, which is why it's so important. But there's so many other ways you could use audio in your game. If you don't want to go as deep as you did, you could simply just have the right contextual music play in the background while you're doing a narrative. So it doesn't have to be synced. It just provides that background. You could also have music, if we're going to be just talking about music, you could also have music as source audio. So what does source mean? Source mean is it's heard by the characters and the players. So if you're walking into if your players are walking into a tavern, your characters are walking into a tavern, you could have actual tavern music, and you could tell your players, that's actually what you hear. Yes, there's a band right there, and there's 4 of them playing, and this is what you hear. And that helps your characters can now interact with what seems to be a living, breathing world. As far as narrations goes, there's also what I call half narrations. So you could set up in the beginning of an intro a narration. You can have a piece in the background, and let the piece carry the rest of the narration for you. So I put a piece together called "The City of Steel," which I don't know if I send it to you, but you go through kind of part of the setup, and then you stop with your narration and let the music fill the rest of the context for you. Let your player's imagination fill the rest. Then there's no narration, where you could literally just do nothing but, and you walk into a city and you play a piece and just be silent. And it's something that people at first feel really awkward towards, but you just let the music do the whole legwork for you, and let the soundscape, let the sound design actually create the city, and that could be immensely powerful as well. Lastly, what I want to cover as far as music is leveraging latent emotional connections. So we kind of touched on this a little bit in the last video, where, for example, if I want to leverage a sense of, if I want to build a sense of drama or anticipation in my game, sometimes I'll use the OST from Braveheart. In particular, that scene where some of you will remember when Marion was killed and William Wallace starts walking back into town on horseback. That theme is so iconic and so laced with energy. Anybody who watched that, I'm going to play that scene, and I'm going to play that track. And even if they might not exactly know what the name of that track is, they're going to go like, "Oh crap, whoa, like what's going on? Like something major is about to go down." And that's leveraging this latent connection that they have established through the movie and through the audio that way. So many different ways to use audio, and that's just music. We didn't cover soundscapes and sound effects and voiceovers, but that kind of gives you an idea of the universe that a game master has open when you want to make these really profound, these really immersive gaming experiences. Whew, that was a lot. Sorry.
Well, it's absolutely riveting. I mean, it's really cool to see the power that we have, which then leads me to my next question. I mean, if we look at your website, you've got just a whole array of some of the top guys in game mastering, in role playing, on the web at the moment. I think we're all fans of various different groups that are out there, and they obviously are at the top of their game. They know how to use it. Do you think a lot of people, though, come across something like battlebards.com, think it's really cool, and then maybe don't use it correctly?
Yeah, there's no correct way to game, but yeah, using audio in gaming is a skill, and that's why I was so thrilled to see the videos that you've done, because you really helped to really break it down in a very technical way of some of the best practices of using audio in gaming. So thank you for that. But you're right. Using audio in game, it's not always as easy as just hitting play and letting something run, because you don't want that music to be too obtrusive. You don't want it to step on your narration. You don't want it to be hard for the players to hear each other. It's a little bit of an art. But please, for anybody out there, if you're, you want to run kind of these deeper emotional games, you want to run these immersive games, don't be shy. Just try it. If it's not with BattleBards, I don't care. That's fine. Find whatever music works for you out there, and find what works best for you to put it in. Because yeah, it is a little bit of a science, but let me tell you, it's going to change the way that you game. It's going to change the way that you experience these stories, these collective stories told. And the example that I always use to people is watch the opening crawl of Star Wars, that text scroll, without John Williams, and then watch it with John Williams' score, and it's a completely different experience. And that was that eye-opening experience from when I first started using audio in gaming, and I'm like, oh my god, my players are at the edge of their seats. They're talking in character. They're really kind of buying into this world, and that's what music helps to do. So is there a right way to do it? There are more effective ways to use it. There are ways that makes your life easier as a GM, ways to make the experience more immersive for players. And you've got resources like yourself. I'm happy to talk with any gamers and all those other partners that you see on BattleBards, that I haven't found one guy that isn't happy to either point you to a blog or talk to himself about how some of the best practices of using audio in games.
No, absolutely. And it's not on the list of questions that I had for you, but recently I was at a convention we had our national convention here for role playing, and I happened to draw a Star Wars module where they had written an opening blurb, as you would have seen scrolling across the screen. But because it's a convention, you're sitting in a hall with 20 or 30 other groups busy playing, you can't play music. So I thought, what am I going to do? How do I get this blurb across? And so what I said was, all right, all my players, because I had 6 players, I said, right, close your eyes. Now imagine you're sitting in a theater. Now imagine the screen goes black, you see the LucasArts thing come up, and then you see this yellow scroll. And then I started to read it out to them as best I could. But afterwards, most of them came to me and they said they heard the music in their head. And I went, well, that's why I wanted you to close your eyes, because if you don't have something visual to work off, your brain's going to fill in stuff. So that's the power of music, that even when it isn't there, we kind of put it in there anyway, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Then if we
well
done. If we look at online role playing, so via Skype or through some of the platforms, a lot of the guys that have been watching the channel have said, well, there's a certain one, Roll20, which only supports SoundCloud. It doesn't support anything else. Have you guys got some kind of plan moving forward? Is there something that they can do to integrate what you're offering with these kind of online platforms? Is that too complicated a question to ask right now?
Yes, but I'm not allowed to say.
Yes, but you're not allowed to say.
So it is not too complicated a question. We've got some things in the works, so look out for it.
Oh, you heard it here first. Right. So, yes, I would imagine for GMs in today's society, where I think back to the days when I was using cassette tapes to play audio, and you're not scrubbing through it. You are stuck with that fast forward, please option. But with the
I'm laughing just because I remember those days as well.
It's like, I know it's on the tape somewhere. I've just got to yeah. Anyway, so with the rapid increase of technology, and I am cognizant this is also not on the list, but I'm not giving up this opportunity to ask it. With technology moving so quickly and so rapidly, there's a lot of debate. Do we even allow cell phones at the table? Do we allow technology to come in? And what you guys are doing is really kind of saying, well, hey, we're going to use the tech to make it better. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like cell phones in my game, but yeah. So as far as the role of tech, with that said, we actually use a lot of tech. So I'm the founder of the Orange County Gaming Group here in Southern California. Don't game as much as we used to, but we do still game, and we actually use quite a bit of tech. We use overhead projector. We'll use obviously audio. We'll use instant message. There'll be many times as a GM where I need to send information to one player without the rest knowing. So we actually use a great deal of tech. And of course, the question that we get is, well, isn't that too obtrusive? As long as what we're doing is adding an immersive aspect to the game, not just to make it look pretty or to make it easier. It has to be immersive. So when I'm sending those secret messages through an instant messenger or some other platform, it's because the player is being privy to specific information that the rest are not, and then they can use that to role play in whatever way they want. With an overhead projector, I love showing visuals. Whenever it's going to be like a DBG or a major NPC or location, to see a windswept mountain and saying you're going there, that really kind of and then you place into that like a soundscape or a piece of music. I got to tell you, man, they're there. They are there. They're on the mountain and they're cold. They want a jacket. It could be 90 degrees in the room, but they're kind of really feeling it. So as far as the argument, I can understand the other side saying, no, kind of like they're the purists. Like, no, this is about just kind of narrative storytelling. That's fine. If that's your deal, that's totally okay. And if your players and you get to that spot, that fantasy world with just narrative, kudos. That's terrific. For me, I like to go with kind of a high, quote unquote, higher production value to leverage whatever I have at my disposal to make these immersive games. But yeah, cell phones, nothing kind of kills you than someone kind of doing like, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, where were we? Like, hey, come on, we're telling a story here. Let's get into the hand of the game. But with that said, we do frequent breaks. We'll break about, assuming we're not in a crazy part of the game, on a climactic point in the game, we'll break every couple of hours to make sure that people can take care of what they need to.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a very fair approach. And I think as we become more and more and more integrated with our tech, it just makes sense to embrace it. What I'm hearing, though, is that the role of the game master is also shifting from just being purely narrative and rules adjudication to quite a as you say, production value-based producer in terms of sound, in terms of imagery. It becomes quite daunting. But what advice would you have for a new game master who is, maybe they've never run a game before, or they've kind of run one or two little modules, they now want to kick up their game? What would your advice be in terms of using music? I know you've kind of given us some hints, but what would it be?
When it comes to using music, I would say work with the platforms and the systems and the music you're most comfortable with. Don't do anything that's going to take you out of your comfort zone. Gaming, as a game master, you've got enough on your plate. You have to make sure that the rules are being followed. You've got your narratives. You've got your players you're going to manage, your NPCs. It's a daunting thing, and especially if you're new or if you're transitioning from modules to kind of your own campaign world, it's a lot on your plate. So stick with what you're comfortable. But at every session, do one little thing that's new. Explore something else that kind of broadens your horizon. So let's say you've never run audio before in your games. Okay, start with just a basic ambiance piece. Just start with something just to set the tone. Don't sync it. Don't do anything too creative. Just when you say, okay, you guys go into that haunted crypt, just have some scary music. Put some Halloween music on the background. Then next time, maybe try syncing a narration with the music. Maybe next time start dropping a couple of sound effects, like the ghostly wail of an undead creature out in the depths of the tome. Those little things in game go such a long way to set the tone, to set the mood in a game. So I would say that once you're comfortable with music, explore some sound effects. And sound effects has always been tough to use as a game master because they kind of represented little bang for a big buck, because you either had to buy it or you had to find it, which takes a bunch of time. And then you have to set that up in your whatever tool you're using to play audio, and then you hit play, and it's over in a second, and all that kind of work just went. Again, that's part of the pain that we try to solve with battle bards, where you could have 30 sound effects ready to go right then and there without having to worry about it. So start exploring little things. And the biggest piece of advice, talk to your players. At the end of every session, have a little wrap session and be like, hey, for you guys, what worked? What do you guys think about the music? Do you guys think the sound effects kind of work? Was it obtrusive, or did it kind of help in the game? And in the end, gaming is such a individualistic hobby. You're really kind of making the game for your players and yourself. So whatever works for you and whatever works for them, keep expanding on it. But try to do something every session that is new. Try to explore, whatever it happens to be.
Fantastic advice. Absolutely fantastic advice. If I ever need to go on a holiday, I know who to call to carry on running the channel. Alex, we have come to the end of our time here, so I just want to say a very special thank you to letting us learn more about music, to use BattleBard's music, and there's that whole world of sound effects, which by the looks of things we haven't even touched. So to you, our wonderful, wonderful fans, if you want to know more about that, let us know in those comments. After all, this is for you guys. So Alex from battlebards.com, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime.
And to all of you, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, happy gaming.